you want to book acting work. We hear that, and we want you to have that. But here's the thing. The industry is desperate for leaders, for human connection. And that's what it really wants, even if it doesn't feel like that. And that's how you book work.
By taking you inside the craft, the casting room, and the business, and bringing other industry experts into the conversation, we really dig in. We pull back the curtain of the industry and show you how much power you really have as an artist. By bringing your humanity to the work and the industry, you become an artistic leader, the kind of actor who books work.
Nothing excites us more than seeing you express your unique artistic voice in the work and humanize the business.
And have all the tools you need to be a championship-level working actor at this very time in an industry that needs your voice and your leadership.
Industry and artistry. This is the only place you're going to hear this.
I'm Risa.
And I'm Steve, and this is the Acting Podcast from the BGB Studio.
Today we are thrilled to welcome Bernie Telsey to the Acting Podcast. I have known Bernie for close to 4 decades. We worked together a long time ago. We've worked together over the years and recently, and it's been an amazing collaboration, and I love and respect Bernie, and I'm so excited, as is Steve, to welcome him to our studio and to this conversation. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Since opening Telsey Company in 1988, Bernie, along with his huge staff of casting directors, associates, and assistants, have cast such Broadway shows as, here we go, Rent, Wicked, Hairspray, In the Heights, Kinky Boots, Hamilton, Network, Oklahoman, To Kill a Mockingbird, as well as countless national tours, off-Broadway productions, and regional theater productions across the country. And if you go to his office in New York, you will see hundreds of theater posters everywhere. There's no more room for them. Bernie and his staff have worked on feature films, including The Kitchen, Mary Poppins Returns, The Greatest Showman, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Into the Woods, Rachel Getting Married, The Intern, and many, many more, including the upcoming film adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. Okay, now to television. Television projects include the recent Fosse Verdon, This Is Us, Nosferatu, The Big C, Masters of Sex, which we cast together for all those years, Rent Live, Jesus Christ Superstar Live, Tales of the City, as well as the upcoming The Gilded Age for HBO, AJ and the Queen for Netflix, and Little Voice and Little America for Apple TV+. Telsey Company won an Emmy Award for casting the pilot of Ugly Betty and nominated for Fosse Verdon, This Is Us, Grease Live, Jesus Christ Superstar Live in Concert, and The Big C. And they won an Independent Spirit Award for casting the beautifully cast feature film Margin Call. And Bernie was, and this is a really big deal, the 2016 recipient of the Casting Society of America's Hoyt Bowers Award for his huge contribution to casting. As an office, Telsey Company has won 25 Artios Awards for casting. And on top of all of that, Bernie serves as the New York Vice President of the Casting Society of America, running the New York office, and he's on the Board of Governors for the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, and he's also one of the artistic directors of MCC, aka Manhattan Class Company Theater in New York, a thriving off-Broadway company newly housed on the West Side. It is the heart and soul of the work he loves. So Bernie Telsey, Bernard Telsey.
Nice to see you.
You too. So glad we can make this work. Yeah. So we're in Los Angeles. You're here occasionally because you do so many freaking things. It's hard to keep track.
A few things.
Yeah, a few things. So what are you here in Los Angeles doing?
I'm here because I sit on the board at the Academy of Motion Pictures. Yeah. So we had a board meeting, and I represent the casting branch. Yeah. And we also have the Governor Awards this Sunday, where they give the honorary Oscars.
What are those for?
It's just to give to Lifetime Achievement.
Who are the people this year?
So Gina Davis is getting one for the Humanitarian Award.
Oh, yeah.
For all of her charity work.
Right,
and David Lynch is getting one.
Yeah.
And Lena Wultmuller, the director, the German director.
Oh, I remember her. Yeah.
And so it's going to be exciting.
That's cool. So just to stay with that for 1 second, so the fact that you're on the board of the Academy is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to get elected by the casting membership.
Yeah, but you are among the first casting directors to ever be on the board,
Yes,
right?
because we just became a branch only 6 years ago.
Which is crazy.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all members at large,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
and myself,
Yeah,
and we have about 110 casting directors, which is global now, which is wonderful because there's so many people internationally that are part of it. But then David Rubin, Laura Kennedy, and I were the first governors.
So just the fact that you do that, so you're the New York vice president of the CSA. I'm reading here. You are on the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences Board of Governors that we just talked about. You do a lot.
Yeah.
You have this empire that you've built. And I mean, if I'm embarrassing you, I just say you're embarrassed.
I don't think of it as an empire, but yes, it is a big office.
You know why it's an empire? Because you have been able to sustain a very, very high level of work, a certain amount of work in every department. You have branches in what?
And we have theater, plays, and musicals, and then we still
which
have
includes
commercials.
Broadway and off-Broadway and touring companies and regional theater.
Yeah. And then we have commercials. We still have a department that did commercials, which I started when I was at your office.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
And then we do television on both New York and LA, and then we do films on both.
Yeah.
So it's really nice, like an actor who wants to be seen for all different things. It's nice as a casting office to be able to do so many different kinds of projects in different mediums.
Yeah.
Keeps it fresh.
Keeps it fresh. Well, so I'm going back to this empire notion. So you've got all of these major things that you do. You've got your hands in every possible performance arena, and you've got a huge, amazing staff, right?
Yeah, we have 30 people in the New York office, and there's about 9 in the LA office.
Which is, so it grows. I mean, it's like...
part of my hope was to keep breeding casting directors, because then there'd be more of us.
Yeah.
And then what we all do as a profession would be more recognized and more part of the creative process.
And creating casting directors, or breeding them, or evolving them, teaching them, nurturing them so that they also do the kind of work you do. Because one of the things that I know from working with you guys and working with you over the past, I was counting, it's like 39 years.
Crazy.
That you care about actors.
Yeah.
Right? You care about the work. You've got great taste. You understand the notion of collaboration. We could talk about that, but you care deeply about actors. And our audience, those of you listening, are actors, and you probably think of, this is really interesting to me. I know I'm jumping all over the place, that Bernard Telsey Company is this massive thing. And so it's scary for some people. And so you have this persona of this person who, sits on the throne of this empire. I mean, that's how people see you.
Really?
Yeah.
I hope it's not that.
But I mean, some people. I know what the opposite side of that is that you have intimate, deep relationships with artists, with actors, and actors love you and they love your office. So I speak to that only because it's impressive that you're able to do all of those things. And one of my questions to you is, how the fuck do you do all of that? How do you manage 39 staff members and hundreds of productions at one time, and around the Academy and the CSA and all that stuff? How do you do it?
And then there's that theater company.
And then there's a theater company, Manhattan Class Company.
Right.
Which is a huge part of your mission and your heart. So how do you do that? How do you manage that?
Well, I'm sure my wife will give you a different answer.
Okay, we'll ask her.
So let's not ask her.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just love what it is that I do, and I love working. And to me, it never feels like work.
Really?
Sure, there are bad days, and there are hard days, and there are, issues that come up. But I just love. First of all, I love having a staff, and I don't mean because that means we get to do more, but I love collaborating with other casting directors. I mean, it did start when I worked with you, because there was a few of us, even when, and the idea of having a place where we can collaborate even before or after we're dealing with our directors, producers, and writers. It's wonderful, because I feel like our job is to be this, this gateway into opening doors for actors, and our job is to know as many actors as possible. And with having more of a staff, we get to see more actors.
True, yeah. So you can help each other and share the wealth.
Yeah, and it's always the people who are not even on the project that actually sometimes have that initial idea or have that way of finding that right actor. And that's because it's so subjective, casting, right? I mean, it's like a taste business, and everybody is always have a different taste. And our job is to sort of hone everybody in and try to get them all on the same page.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful getting to do that with fellow casting directors.
And a lot of people have been with you for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we all know in casting, many people go on and open up their own offices, and that's the norm.
Yeah.
Because it's usually a singular kind of industry. But, all the partners in our office have been, almost 19 to 30 years. The 7 senior people. And,
Right. Like Will and David and
David Vicari and Will Cantler and Bethany Knox and Craig Burns and Tiffany Little Canfield have all been there 17 to 30 years. And
well, that's impressive and unusual. So how do you attribute that kind of commitment, loyalty, and
I mean,
longevity?
Longevity.
Yeah.
I think it's empowering people. All of them have their own tastes, of course, even if we try to collectively have a way of working.
Yeah.
But they're all empowered, and they all have billing, and they all share in the business. And I want them to feel like it is their business, and they don't have to necessarily go out and open up their own. If they did, God bless, and I love them.
Yeah.
And it just works. And I feel like it works with the next tier of people. We have a lot of other senior people who've been there 10 plus years.
Yeah.
But I feel like everybody gets to have a say, even if they're the assistant or the associate or the director or the partner. We don't really talk about titles. I mean, everyone has different responsibilities, of course.
Yeah.
But it really is a team.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that must account for it, because you have to have good people who you can rely on when you're doing that many things.
Yeah, and we have a lot of staff meetings and a lot of...
Oh, you do?
Yeah, a lot of staff meetings, and we have breakout meetings, and, it really is a big open... we don't have offices with closed doors.
Right.
I've been very much an open book, my whole life.
Yeah.
And,
what does that mean to you? You've been an open book. And why?
Because
I feel like that. I feel like that actors love your office, and they love to know that they're coming in for you guys, and they know that you guys are champions, and you especially champion actors. So because you're accessible, even as a human being,
right? And I feel like we have to be that way.
Well,
especially
but a lot of people aren't.
I know.
But why are you, and what is that like for you, and what does that look like?
I think that's a great question. Why am I? I think because at the same time I was building this casting company, I was starting my own theater company. And, we were nobodies, right? We were a bunch of NYU graduates who were like, oh, let's start a theater company.
Yeah.
And, and because tomorrow we're going to be producing. And, that took 7 years.
Yeah.
But in the theater, you have to be collaborative. I mean, everyone's doing everything, especially when we were starting up.
Yeah.
We were all painting the sets. We were all like doing everything. So my training it was never about closed doors, or it was never about power, or it was never about, hierarchy. It was just about a bunch of people collaborating together and starting a theater. So I feel like I just brought that into how I have a business.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I get that, because that's where I came from.
Yeah.
So if that's your training and that's what you know, then that's how you build a business.
I mean, even when we have moved 3 times over the course of Telsey Company, there was a sense of, oh, aren't you going to have your own office? It's like, no.
Oh, your physical office.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like, I would never want that. Number one.
Well, first of all, you're not
so
there
boring.
a ton in sitting at a desk, because you're either...
because you're in auditions, and you're all
running around.
And then you want everyone to pick up and learn from those phone calls. And, when we've had those heated kinds of conversations, you could see certain heads in the office pop up and go, oh, what's going on? What can I learn from this?
So,
and, we're all... I mean, I feel like half of the people in my office know more than I do. I mean, at least that's my philosophy. It's like, what can I get from them? Forget what they need to get from me.
Yeah.
And we bring those teams, back into the office, so that anyone we're casting for, whether it's someone we've cast for many years or a brand new client, that they know this is how we work. There's a team of 4 people on every project. Even if it's me or not me, it's a big...
Well, they buy into that. They would have to buy into that. Yeah.
We're not fooling anybody. This is who we are, and it's up to them.
It blows my mind, I have to say. No, it does, because I look at you and I just go, how have you managed this?
Right.
How have you managed to... Steve Braun is in the house.
Hi, Steve. How are you? Nice to see you. Yeah.
They're shaking hands.
Been a while.
Yeah.
It's like
Come sit down.
TV, when Bobby Bittman would jump in on the Sammy modeling show to nobody. All right.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what that is, Steve's got these obscure references. But we were just talking about Bernie being... how he collaborates and how he has people have access to him, to you, and being an open book was the reference, but being accessible, which is something that people with this much going on often aren't, and a lot of casting people aren't. And you're talking about coming from the theater, coming from a collaborative art and spirit, bringing that into business making, which is so important in how it trickles down and how people access what you're doing.
And there's likely two elements of that too, which is like the actual physical accessibility of I'm here, I'm not in 10 other different cities, but also...
Well, you've also been in his office, right? Because we've done workshops there where we're talking about Bernie sits with everybody in an open area, so...
But there's the emotional accessibility of, I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen everything and I've had to, I'm guessing, protect myself or set up boundaries to a certain extent. But then within the work, be there emotionally and be able to be affected by it. How do you do that?
I don't know how to set up a boundary. I mean, when you said you know what I mean? Just I probably need to a little bit. I mean, yes. I don't sleep at the office, but I guess my philosophy would be instead of setting up a boundary, I've set up another casting director in the office, right? So that we can still be a complete open book, even if it's not me 24/7, because I can't be in every room. If we have 7 audition rooms, I can't be in all 7 of them, but someone else can be, who's at least carrying that philosophy of an open kind of situation.
Right.
So I don't think of it as protecting myself.
Is it exhausting?
No, I was saying earlier, it's like coffee for me. I mean, it's like I get such an adrenaline of what we do. Right. Yes, we could all sit here and say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still casting that role. You know what I mean? But that's the given circumstance, and for whatever reason, no one's agreeing on who we. But guess what? There are 100 other actors you can't see. Even if you want to feel like there is no one else, or we already saw it.
Right.
If the people we're working for don't feel that way, then we're in enough of a business where there are more options and there are more choices, and then you just have to, dig down and go, okay, how can I make that joyful rather than stressful?
And
is that happening right now? You know what I mean? It's like, okay,
this
I have
podcast.
to go back in. No.
Gotcha, I understand.
But I have to go back in, even if you think it should have been cast already.
Right.
It's not.
But but it is frustrating sometimes.
Sure.
And so really, it's how you approach that frustration with that kind of spirit of, okay, we'll just keep digging in.
We just have to keep digging in. And again, I think when you're asking these questions, I'm relaying it to starting a theater company. Right, is so hard. And you never have enough money to do what you want to do. So you have to always find another way, you know what I mean? And somehow I never act like the casting is the profitable situation. It's the same thing. It's like, we'll find another positive way. It's like parenting. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
You gotta go find another way to...
So did you learn that? Is it something like any relationship that you've had to learn, or did you always have that mindset? Because I imagine you've hit like walls at full speed.
But I want to speak a little bit for you, only because I've known you so long. Yeah. I think that's part of who you are. I think that's a big part of your success.
She's feeling it.
Why do I get like this? It's so crazy.
And I'll vamp for you so you can process these wonderful feelings. No, but it's great. But I'm struck also by the fact that the two of you have, you are titans of this industry. I'm not like, and you've stuck around and you've been at it together. The two of you have a history. And I think there are very few people who are in that category. So here you are talking to someone that you've been shoulder to shoulder with for a lot of years.
Yeah, but just watching you build this business, and also I've worked with you. So there are times when I've wanted to give up and you have schooled me on, listen, we cannot go there. We just have to... Right. We have to get through this in a way that's supportive and productive. I mean, we've commiserated and we've rolled our eyes and we've said, oh my God, this is frustrating.
That's part of the fun too.
Yeah.
Commiserating.
Yeah. But you have had a spirit of positivity, productivity, collaboration, support that is pretty unusual, I think. And I think that's a part of your success, or at least you're sustaining this work and this ability to do this work for such a long time. Don't you think?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and when you ask, like, where did that come from? Maybe that was something my father, nothing ever came easy growing up. It was like you had to fight for everything. We did not have, there was not a financial situation in our home.
Right.
And I watched my father work so hard, Sundays and nighttime. And so I guess it was just natural that I was going to have to do that same thing, but I was going to make it be something that I was passionate about. And the theater was something I was completely passionate about.
Yeah. You're coming back to theater, which I think is so interesting that it is such an anchor for you, an emotional anchor, a creative anchor.
Yeah, both.
And so what is that for you when you're in the midst of casting some role and some producers going, no, you do this and go to this country and, keep digging and you found it and it's, it's hard. What is it that the theater gives you, MCC and other theater collaborations?
I just love being in a rehearsal room or being in an audience with the theater. Yeah. You know what I mean? The results and being affected emotionally.
Yeah.
And somehow I'll always sort of draw myself into how can I bring those feelings into casting?
Oh,
even
my God.
if it's
yeah.
If you just looked at the casting, how can I see another person for that role?
Right.
You know what I mean? When I'd rather just go in the room and convince the team that this is it, but sometimes that doesn't work. So I try in that moment, I guess, to think of the casting challenge as, okay, who are the 6 Bernies who are going to collaborate? Who are the other 6 parts of me that could find another way in to find another person, or rely on someone in my staff to, you really have to,
They like you do it.
You know what I mean? Not that we're handing it off, but who else?
Yeah.
Because I do feel like, who am I missing?
Yeah.
Right? So I guess that's the real thing. When it gets really tough in the casting, I'm willing to go, okay, you know what? How am I doing a bad job? I'm not that I'm mea culpa on myself, but like, what am I missing?
Right.
Because she or he is out there.
Right.
So it becomes another crossword puzzle because I know it can get solved, right?
Sometimes it has to get solved.
It has to get solved, and sometimes it has to get solved by me convincing or showing someone a tape again.
Yeah.
But maybe it is from finding a new person.
Right. But I love what you said about bringing the spirit of the work in the theater, which is so collaborative and so emotionally engaged into the casting process, which sometimes can be without.
Right.
Right?
No. And I think that's why, to go back, why I joined, right? Or why I sit on the board at CSA or the Academy, because I think what all casting directors do is so hard. Mm-hmm. And I know some and I don't know some, but I love what all casting directors do. So how can I help the profession? And that's why I volunteer on all these boards, and because it's about moving our profession forward. And again, how can I collaborate with casting directors that I don't work with, right?
Well, and help rise people up, which is a lot of what you do.
But it's such a creative mindset to me. It's such a malleability. It's such an improv yes and, where I think a lot of people in your position probably could get away with, fuck you, we're done here. And so for you to, and I have 2 young kids, it's a similar thing, right? Because you can't do that with them. You have to find another way. You have to be malleable. To me, it's such a creative spirit of, let's see, there must be another way, which is so amazing. I think actors in particular should understand that and understand the challenges that you're facing and the heavy lifting you're doing to get to that place before they walk into the audition room with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm always amazed at what they're doing, right? I mean, those actors, God bless, it's so hard to be an actor, number one, but it's such a gift what they can do. I quickly could not do that.
Well, you were an actor? When I met you, you were an actor.
Right, and it's like, I can't do that. I can't tap into those kind of emotions, but can I help someone who can?
Right.
So it's already, what they do is amazing. And then the whole art of auditioning and getting a job is completely foreign to even what real acting is.
So how do you create a space for actors that is close to that? Or do you just have to assume that, look, you have to get good at this specific thing that's probably different than the actual thing?
Yeah, I think it's like what you guys teach here. you have to get good at auditioning. I mean, no matter how much, yes, I want to always have a space that is welcoming. And we, as Risa and you have both been to our space, to me, the lobby is as important as what's going on in the audition room. So people feel comfortable and warm and relaxed and accessible. And, the staff is right there. But at the end of the day, you still got to learn how to audition and how to get the job and all of those kind of business things and have to be made. And,
sure. And when an actor comes in a place of desperation and deep need and perhaps even sabotaging, as a lot of actors, and I certainly know when I pursued an acting career, you can get to those places kind of quick.
Yeah.
When they walk in with some of that and don't do the job that they want to do and that you need them to do, is it easy for you to go to a place of frustration, or do you have that compassion consistently for actors?
Especially if you know what they're capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you try in that moment to help guide and strip so you can get to the work. But sometimes you can't when there's 6 people in the room and, you just feel so awful. You
for them.
Yeah, because that's not. And then you try another avenue. You feel like, okay, we're here to help provide information about all these actors. So, and I don't say this because, Risa, you're sitting here, but I learned this from you. It's like we're going to be very vocal as much as I possibly can be in that room.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the one going out and seeing these people's work in the theater, on film or TV, or in auditions every week, I'm going to talk about that. So it's not just about the 5 minutes that they're in the room.
Sure.
You can advocate for them.
Yes.
And you do. I've seen you do it, which is really important. And we've always talked about how important it is to educate.
It's educating because half of the people who are behind the desk don't know.
Yeah. They need that.
So I would say this, and one of the reasons why this is important is because I think actors, and I'm speaking for myself when I was pursuing an acting career, that you can get to this place of being in opposition to casting directors. They're the gatekeepers, and if I didn't do well, or if the reader did this, that, or the other thing, it's your fault. I'm antithetical to you all. It's a fight. And I also think that actors reference those trauma moments of when they did get yelled at by the casting director or left in the hallway for an hour and a half or whatever else.
And they bring that with them, yeah.
Why does a casting director, just so we understand that, why and how does a casting director get to that point where they shut off from actors and can't open up and can't be as generous as the way that the two of you are describing?
I don't know, actually, because I don't think, easy for me to say, I don't think that happens.
It does.
I know. I believe that
but
it does.
Doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't happen in your world.
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't happen on any one of my staff. And I don't mean to be Pollyanna about it, but because I don't know what that gets us.
Yeah.
Right?
That's just it, right?
Right. Then you've done what?
Right.
You didn't get the best out of what you needed.
Totally.
And why are you being mean? It's just so opposite of what.
You know what I think? I think it comes from people either being victimized by or feeling less than when they can't provide. So when they hit their walls, we talked about how when you hit your walls, what you do, which is healthy, productive, collaborative, lifting it up, keep finding another way but a lot of people don't have those resources or that history or that reference. And so they shut down and they become a victim of it, and they don't have those resources. And so they don't know how to fortify themselves to keep going or to find the positive spin in it or
they have no one to talk about it with.
They have no one to talk.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the joy of, because you're right. The minute you started talking about that, I have those feelings, and I gotta say they go away because I go right back into the bullpen of the office, and that's when you dump.
Yeah.
And then you can get back on the horse,
yeah,
right? Right, and I don't have to wait till I get home to do it. We all do it with each other, like, I can't believe that fucking whatever it is. Right, I think that's the joy of having a big office and a place to have that,
But I think it comes back to collaboration, because whenever I've worked with you in the last several years, not in the old days, we haven't talked about the old days yet, but we can get to that. We just get started.
We were past all the old days,
No,
and then I could just breeze in.
Yeah. We got to the
happy to hear about the old days.
Juicy stuff, but it comes back to that sense of problem solving and collaboration and finding a solution because you want to, because you are serving the creative storytelling, the vision, and the process. And so I think that's what people don't have. They don't have that reference point. They don't have that creative foundation or that collaborative foundation.
I don't mean for me to get teary-eyed, but I walked into your office and that was that way. It was you and Billy, Lisa and Heidi, and You know what I mean? And within 5 minutes, it was like, okay, what do you think, Bernie? You know what I mean? It was already a place of collaboration, whether we were dealing with any one of those high-powered movie directors or stage directors.
Right.
It was already like, let's make casting a collaboration on top of what we're doing with our
And then you
teams.
bring that spirit to the
Right.
directors, producers that you work with to say, let's figure this out together. Yeah.
I mean, that...
Yeah, I think that's what saves the work, and that's what a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, because a lot of people treat us like we're here to serve them, and we are here to serve their vision, but there's ways to do that. We can be collaborative about that, like a set designer is or a costume designer.
Yeah.
You know what's so important about that? Because sometimes I have to say fall victim to that. You walk into that collaboration as a leader and as a department head and as somebody who has a voice, the stuff we talk about to actors all the time. You don't come in with this like, oh, I am just this little, I'm the casting director here to serve you and also have you be abusive and have you just use me as a computer. You come in with a point of view and a vision and you've earned a seat at the table, right?
Yeah, and I can't wait to get inside his or her head of what it is that they're looking for in this project, so we can serve them.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's their decision.
Yeah.
But I also get, that's the joy of having the theater company, because then we have another outlet that we get to serve our vision.
Yeah.
Have you ever turned work down because people aren't interested in hearing you or collaborating with you, or stepped away from those sort of people?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if it was that direct of a reason,
Sure.
Sometimes it's that. But I think everybody wants what we're all three of us are talking about, how you get there.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is walking in and saying, I only want your computer
Right.
of ideas.
Yeah.
It's how you approach it. And I guess I have this feeling of anyone can be collaborative. Yes, it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But at least I do go into it thinking that.
And have things changed since the days of the manila envelopes from the agents and going through everything on your desk to, no, it's just about volume for a caster. Just get me volume. It's a numbers game. I don't really care about your sensibility. It might be different in Los Angeles than New York.
Well, some of that is the case. Some things have changed with technology.
Yeah, the technology thing has made it so that anything is possible. Just like in the real world, right? Because of these phones, anything is possible. Yeah. So there's a sense of, did you look in New Zealand? And it's like, I hadn't yet, you know what I mean? Oops.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But there is sometimes that kind of feeling,
Right.
Yeah.
which is great.
Because it can be global and it can be productive.
So everything is so easy now, and an audition could happen in 5 minutes because someone could put themselves on tape in Ireland for something.
Right.
So that's the good thing, and then sometimes it's the bad thing because it's made everyone doubt that they've seen it. I think so. It's a fear, right? Because I think most of casting is fear. Because I always joke around and I say, yeah, it's the hardest for anyone on a team to make a casting decision because then they have to start.
Right.
Right. Like even if they're not thinking that way, then they have to start directing or writing
So it's
or
easier,
rehearsing.
Yeah, it's easier to
so
just keep...
it's easier to just keep casting sometimes. Right. Even if they're happy. So.
And have you figured out, I'm guessing you have,
Sure.
just the ways in which you navigate all of that fear coming from someone else, some challenging showrunner or showrunner who you see 6 miles away, this is the behavior that's happening and it's not
I don't know if there's a book of like,
you could write it.
how to navigate.
You could write it.
But you do have your own little book of ways, but they're all so different because it's such a people business.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess that's the joy of getting to work on theater, film, and TV because it's 3 different books. You know what I mean?
But isn't it in some ways you're dealing with the same issues, the same fears, the same anxieties, the same egos?
Yes, but how you solve it is different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because at least in the theater, most of the time, everyone's got to get in the room. So how you navigate is how you perform in the room with your whole team. In television, it's hard because everybody's all over the place and there's so many levels.
So many people.
Of so many people
cooks.
who don't even get to go at the same time.
Yeah.
So navigating that is a completely different way to cast. In the theater, they're all there at the same time. And if they're not, then they miss out. and then, so it's, and then with film, you're dealing with so many times the director not even in the room. So how do you relay your point of view?
Do you have a preference?
On email. I don't have a preference in what project, because I can honestly say I like all mediums, but I have a preference of being in the room with people.
You want people in
Which
the
is
room.
what happens more naturally in the theater.
In the theater, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I just read an article recently that you were in, because you're in like most articles people read about casting.
I read it too.
Yeah, about self-taping now into theater.
Oh, yes.
And that what we can talk about, let's talk about self-taping for just a second, just because it's
Sure.
become the norm. And it's
become the
actually,
norm.
I've heard of offices that are only using self-taping in television, and also that in the theater, that people are self-taping and using self-tapes without being
So what is that apocalyptic world where there is no in-person audition ever?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not that. And as much as everyone says that, we still have all these rooms packed. So I don't think it's going away. We do use self-tapes in the theater when that person can't get there. Different than, we'll talk about film and TV in a second, but in the theater, the self-tapes have been used because that person's not here.
They're on the road.
And they're in LA,
yeah.
and they are willing to come and do that off-Broadway play at MCC or the Atlantic or Second Stage. So then why shouldn't they get to do that self-tape or Skype in with that director because someone on our team is going, you should see so-and-so who lives in LA, but would come and do this play.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not going to fly all the way in for an off-Broadway audition.
Right.
So that's when we use the self-tape, and I would say almost every play has some element of that.
And people
But
are
then-
cast, and people are cast from that,
and they're being cast.
because they're in Ireland or they're in New Zealand or they're in LA.
And we try to treat it still like, and we talk about this all the time with the staff, it's still like a theater audition, meaning we're going to show that self-tape when everyone's here on Tuesday doing the live people.
Yeah.
If we possibly can, as opposed to film and TV, you're just sending tapes all day long whenever they come in.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And the questions that come up from actors in those situations are, but do I treat it like a TV audition because I'm here? What should the frame be? Is it people who think that theater is different than film and TV?
If I'm doing a theater audition and I'm self-taping, yes, you need a full body shot so that everyone can see what they look like, but then it should be still close so that they're focused on it.
Yeah.
And then I still feel like you have to treat it like it's a film and TV self-tape.
Yeah.
Just so that there's
Well, that makes sense, because
no
you're not going to
distance.
go to the back of the room and start, playing to the house or whatever.
Right.
Because even in your casting rooms, people aren't playing to the house. They're playing they're in the room.
Exactly.
There's an intimacy to
Exactly.
it. What do you like self-tapes as for film and TV?
Yeah, again, I personally like being in the room, but I love that it gets us access to people that we wouldn't get to see.
Yeah.
So I like them, and then I can watch. Yes, the advantages are I can watch them. I could have a session tonight because they all came in and then they were collected, and then tonight I'm going to sit and watch from 7 to 9:30, and then send my director the best ones.
Yeah.
So in
What are
that
the- how do
sense,
you-
I like them. I don't.
Yeah.
But again, that's because I'm seeing people in LA, or now I'm doing a movie in London, and they're not going to put me there for a month.
Right. Well, they used to do that with that. but-
Yeah. So I'll go, but I'll do a month of self tapes and then go for a week to see the best.
So when you say I'll send the director the best ones, what do you look for in a self-tape? What is the best one to you? Like what speaks to you, moves you, affects you?
Something that makes me have feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think there's the technical thing of
Sure.
you got to be able to make a good self tape
Yeah.
and be able to see the person. All those things that I think actors know and then they don't know. Like the lighting and let's shoot it, all that stuff that I know you guys teach as well. But
Although we keep coming back to all the technical stuff could be in place, but if it's just about the technical, because people get hung up on that, you forget about the real work. So
yes,
what is
it
that?
still has to be the real work and connected, and making a connection to whether that, even if I don't see that reader, I know that there's some feeling going on.
Yeah.
It still needs to feel like a performance. In some ways, it's harder to do a self-tape because you're, in a room, you're more lenient, right? Because it's like rehearsal and it's in a room and I'm not really shooting it. But what am I trying to say? When people do these self-tapes, you're already putting the director's already seeing it like on film.
Right.
So it almost has to even be better Does that make
Sure.
Because they're not there to direct in the moment. They're not there to give the adjustment. So they're really looking for a final performance. And I feel like the actor needs to be so much more invested in that self-tape.
And yet, in so many rooms, there isn't a director, there isn't a casting director like yourself, or someone on your staff who's pretty sophisticated and understands the process and can really work with actors.
Right.
That's often the case where you're in the room. We hear this a lot, not how I work or how you work, where actors are in a room with a casting assistant who's reading with them, running the camera, and has just never done any of this before, because people are churning out so much work. So the self-tape maybe I believe can give some freedom if you know how to use it.
Yes, and you know how to direct yourself, and you know how to, go for. And yes, and you can watch it back and do it 2 or 3 times and see which one you like before you send it to the casting.
The key
office.
is 2 or 3 times if you're listening, not 400
Right.
times. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So let's just go back a few years, just because we didn't do it at the beginning. So when we started working together in the early 80s.
It was like right mid-80 when I left.
Mid-80s, yeah. Where were you at in your career at that time, starting to build MCC? And
Sure, I was starting to build MCC. I had just been working at Meg Simon and Frank Cumin casting since, like a week out of NYU. So that was like 81 to 85.
Right, yeah.
And then you and I met, and then I was a freelancer with you.
Yeah.
And it was great because it was right when your office was sort of exploding.
Yeah.
What was it about that Lennon McCartney meeting that made you say, let's do this?
Well, it was at a poker game. No.
It was a Bob and Mary Joyce.
Yeah, it was Bob and Mary Joyce poker game. But I don't know what it was in Risa's head, but I'm sure it was no different than what's happened to me over the years, where like your office is, growing, and you need more people that you can relate to and rely on, because you also were directing plays at the time and had a lot of stuff happening between Lincoln Center, EST, and the movies. So when they asked, come on over, and, it started with, can you work on the Lincoln Center account with Billy? It was just great, because it was, like I said, it was Risa and Billy and Heidi Levitt and Lisa Peterson, who were associates, and then there was me, like another associate. And it was just so exciting, because it was film, it was TV, it was commercials, it was theater, and it was the way I like to work. And Risa was like, yeah, we're directors and we're doing this casting, and you're starting your theater company, but come do this casting. And when you got to leave for your theater company, go. It was very much empowerment, and it was very much trust, all the things that I then have done with my staff of the job's got to get done. And I think the first project outside of the front page at Lincoln Center was the Nick Kazan movie, Punk Daddy. Where it's like, we want to do this movie. We can't go to LA. Can you go to LA? And I was like, yeah, I can go to LA. And, I slept at Nick Kazan and Robin's house.
Yeah.
Now 35 years later, I'm on the board with Robin. It's like, I know what your house looks like. I've seen her, you know what I mean? But
and their kids and all that.
Yeah.
And I also suspect, and forgive me for playing armchair psychiatrist here, that you saw in him and you and her, I suspect, this deep-rooted work ethic coming from hardworking parents who perhaps didn't focus on the thing that filled them up. So that was the shift each of you made. If I'm going to do this and work my fingers to the bone, it's going to be a place where I feel passionate.
Yeah.
And you both have that.
And
I saw work ethic was a huge thing, ambition, and also taste. And you were funny. I remember you were always funny. I used to go to those poker games. I hate poker, and I would just go there to hang out because I moved down the street into an apartment that I sold you.
Yeah, totally.
For way too little money. Worst mistake of my life. And I remember
it was right during that. I didn't even know I didn't even want the apartment.
You didn't want the apartment. I was like, Bernie, you said you would buy this apartment. And
I was like, I couldn't afford this apartment.
Yeah. Well, now you've done what you've done.
It all worked out.
It all worked out again. But I remember that you were funny, and you had energy, you had light.
I do have energy,
and to me, that was so important. And I think that's what you have now and bring to the work that you have. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it, and you're great with people, which I think is important. You like people, right?
Oh yeah, I love people.
Sometimes I don't.
Yeah. No, I got it. It's
I like
know
actors.
How to actually be alone, which is
What is that? What is that?
I don't even know what that would be.
Well, but also let's talk like what's the life work balance for you in terms of like, and here's the thing, like your job is the thing that also fills you up.
Right.
So like when do you step away and shut off from that thing and fill up the tank in other ways?
And can you?
If at all.
Well, shopping is good. That really is helpful. No, my wife and I like to redecorate our apartment, on a weekly basis. But no, I do. I mean, I have 2 kids, and we have a house out east in the funky North Fork, and I try to go. But I'm willing to be critical of myself. It's hard for me to relax. It's hard for me to sort of chill.
But look, that's why you get all this shit done too, right? So what are you gonna do?
And for me, sometimes going to the theater is actually chilling.
Really, you can let yourself go at this point even?
And get sucked into a play or a movie, yes.
Wow.
I get that.
Because the lights go down and then there's nothing but that.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you love it because there's a world in which you show up here and you're bitter and you're like all of it. Like I feel like you have enough data that if you wanted to crunch the data a certain way, you could come out with that, but you don't, and it's so great.
Yeah.
It makes me excited for actors too, because I think again like we actors focus on that this traumatic experience and that one and this one.
I know, but they have to. I know, and I always try to say to actors when I do a seminar or class is like. Yes, they chose a profession where 90% of it is rejection, but they can't think of it as that way.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
because if you do, go home.
They just start spinning.
Don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Then don't do it. It's all it is you didn't get the job.
Right.
And I get how painful that is because, even my son who's an architect doesn't go on 20 things a week that that an actor can do.
Right.
Yeah.
The normal other careers don't have what actors have to go through.
Yeah.
But they can't let that mean anything.
Right.
And
for you, I think you're an example of
negative.
You come back to the love of the work consistently, which is that's the touchstone for you, which is exciting.
And so in terms of actors, I know that you have favorite actors. You've got a tribe of actors who you go to often, mostly that you advocate for. So I think actors listening to this need to also hear that. How do you and why do you advocate for actors? What does that mean to you? Specific actors who I know that you are champions of, new people you've just met or people, like Aaron or, even we're talking about, Raul Esparza who's in the play right now, like people who you've been casting for years, who you champion. Why do you do that and how do you do that?
Why I do it is because they're so fucking good. Right? So that seems natural. Like I think someone like Raul and Norbert Leobutz, Annalee Ashford, you know what I mean? Like they're so good at what they do.
Yeah.
And they're so good in the audition environment. You know what I mean? Which is a whole different thing. Which, you know what I mean?
Say more about that.
Annalee, the minute we met her, she just walks in and treats every audition like it was the performance.
Why do you think
and
she
I don't mean
does
a
that?
result,
No,
but
I know.
meant
She said, yeah.
it's like I'm going to go home and figure out because that's all you got right now, right? Like you don't have the job. And thankfully now she maybe doesn't have to do all that work anymore on auditions because people know who she is. But even when she, was just in the ensemble of Legally Blonde, which was like the first thing we put her in, she was so dynamic. Every audition
But she does that and Norman does that. They walk into a room and they light it up, right? They're working. They're in process.
Yeah.
So what is that? I mean, what is that for actors? A lot of actors don't know how to do that.
No, it's some of it sounds cliche, but it's making choices. It's having a sense of making a choice about that character. I mean, I'll never forget Annalee Ashford coming in for the Sex and the City movie. One line, and it's, and all you get are those shitty little sides that it's our fault, right? All we give it, we don't give it character description if it's a one line. It's like one line interviewing with Carrie Bradshaw to be her assistant, and it's like one line. But it's like she walked in the room and she knew, okay, everybody knows who Carrie Bradshaw is, right? Even if you didn't watch Sex and the City, the television show, Carrie Bradshaw is someone who is what? Is all about style, is all about an outfit. And even though it was like a series of 9 different people who were just interviewing for a job, whether they get the job or not, it was just a line. But Annalee walked in that room and had a whole Sex and the City outfit and walked in meeting Michael Patrick King, the writer-director, as if she was meeting Carrie Bradshaw. Mm-hmm. And you saw it before she even sat down. You know what I mean? The way she had the scarf and the hat and but it wasn't like a costume. It was just no different than I would walk in to meet Paul Newman versus I'd walk in to meet, I don't know, it was a bad suggestion. Paul Newman, I don't know why I said that. But you know what I mean? Like Annalee just entered the room with it.
Yeah,
and it made you want to spend more time with her. It made you want to cast her. And you could see Michael just light up. And the same thing when she did Masters of Sex that first time for John.
Yeah.
It was like, and you have to know that she must have done hours of homework for one line. I just know she did.
And we tell actors
because
also
she
when
thought about every possible thing. Because what are actors doing? They're creating people.
Yeah.
They're being people who have a whole life, even if you only meet them for one line.
Sure.
And she walked in with that rather than walking in as Annalee Ashford.
Although I think just to be contrary to that, but she always is Annalee in everything that she does.
Sure.
And so she is a big personality. She's unapologetic about it, right? She understands performance. She's got her, nightclub show, and so she's a generous human being.
Generous human being.
And so she walks in with that confidence, that specificity, that generosity, and the big personality of Annalee. So we tell actors all the time, don't make a lot of a one-line part, but what she is able to do is just inhabit it unapologetically.
Right. Well said. Well said.
So that's, I think, part of what's brilliant about that there's no apology in any of what she does, and it's incredibly generous and fun and alive. Yeah. It's infectious.
And it makes you want to play more with her, right? Like all of casting, all these auditions are like blind dates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what is it about, and I always try to say that, what is it about a blind date that makes you want to go on the second date?
I don't know. I didn't do well on those.
Okay.
So I don't know.
No, you know what I mean? But there's got to be something that happens in that first meeting.
Human.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Affecting each other and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think actors love your office and love and feel like, oh, I'm going to Telsey for an audition? It feels like this is the real deal. And this is, I'm not make people still get nervous, but what do you think it is about that?
I hope that continues. I think because all of us on the staff are much more involved than just decision making. You know what I mean? Whether it's, Rachel, who's a teacher, or Tiffany, who also teaches, or Craig, who works, they're all sort of more involved in actors' lives. I don't mean that means they're socially best friends with them by any means, no. But, and I think a lot of it has to do with also because of the MCC. I mean, maybe this is the free card, because so many actors work at the theater that Will Cantler and I also run. Mm-hmm. We have a different relationship with actors that we're seeing in the dressing room, that we're seeing backstage, that we're seeing night after night. And that makes us not that taboo casting director. Yeah. That makes us a human being.
You're theater collaborators.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we're collaborators now in an audition situation as opposed to gatekeepers, or any of that kind of, myth that goes with casting, like, oh, we're the people who say no.
Yeah.
But I think that tone is like palpable when you walk into your space too. Like it's alive with rehearsals and classes and there's all sorts of stuff happening. Yeah, lots of kids.
Lots of kids.
High school kids.
There's music playing. There's like it's a creative environment that I think people.
That's what I want it to feel like, because we all know auditions are so cold and so it's all about rejection.
Even the genderless bathrooms.
Yes,
it's a creative, collaborative experience.
Well, that way we spent a lot of time with that.
But I know you did, and that's why I said it, because there's a thought process in.
There really was a thought process of that. Besides it being the time of. We're all in that world now where you have to. But there was a real thought process, because it also helps break down our teams who might not be doing it 24/7 like we are. But, there's nothing better than, Candice Bergen during casting of, Murphy Brown Revival, where she's like, I was just in the bathroom with Jane Howdy Shell, and it's like, yes, you know what I mean? And you love that, because it just breaks down the barriers. So that we're all in this together.
Yeah. Got that sense.
Even if we can't hire every single person.
Right. But you know what's so great about that, what I love about that, is it makes people feel like they're part of something. They're part of a community, a tribe. people who
really
support
try.
them, so that
Right.
it's like, I didn't get this job, but I know I am part of this world, and that's a safe place to go and a collaborative space, and that's important. So at least people feel that, like they have some kind of artistic home to go to, even though they might go in and, and not get cast. And you bring people back and you advocate for them.
No, and we love it. It's like all day long. It's almost like that restaurant. You go back to the back room where the office is, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, so and so's sitting in the lobby. I forgot about them. I'm gonna bring what I mean. Have them come to my. There's a lot of for us too. Like whenever we're stymied, like you walk into the lobby and try to get a good idea.
Casting in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Do you have a firm hand on the logistics of all this, or do you just leave this to your team, all the trains running on time?
No, that's the stuff I get into.
Really?
Even if I'm not in that project.
Yeah.
The logistics of it. I mean, yes, we have staff people who don't cast who are in charge of logistics.
Yeah.
But I do get involved in all that.
Because you like it?
Yeah, because I do like that stuff, and making sure that, it's all about everything looking the way it should look and welcoming and all that kind of. I'm a big. Like, I would love to just be a stage manager, at heart. A receptionist. You know what I mean? Like, I always want to go work the front desk.
You're the maitre d'.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Do you have an exit strategy for this? Or is there like this is my plan for where this goes, and then at this point, I'll hand this over, or I'll be stage managing or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good, I think about that a lot lately, and not because of wanting to exit.
But the next chapter.
But what does happen?
Yeah.
And then it becomes too overwhelming, so it goes away, to be honest. Even though I think of like, does like, do the people who are 15 years younger than me take over? Does my son go into this business? Like any of those. And then it just becomes, there's so many more pressing things that have to be solved.
Yeah.
Well, you're not ready. It's hard to see it because you're not ready.
Yeah, because I'm not wanting to.
But there's probably a version where you do less of one thing and more of another, so that you can be the maitre d' more than less.
Yeah.
Or who knows, right?
Yeah,
Where that might evolve into.
But would you get bored?
And ask, but meanwhile, like, I'm like, why am I doing, why did I open up an LA office? Or why did I join the Academy Board? Or we just moved MCC into a building and now we have 2 theaters.
Why did you?
Because I like doing it, because I'm not
Right.
thinking about any exit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what else can we do?
Yeah. Well, again, that's part of the theme of your life, which is building, growing, positive thinking. So the only thing in that you need to be mindful of is whatever kind of self-care that you need to do to give yourself some space, right?
Right, that's correct.
And what would that do? 'Cause, but it's Steve
yes.
talks to me about that all the time, because I'm not unlike you in that. And at some point, especially after a long time, you actually can serve the work better if you can find some space in all of that. But it's hard when you're growing and thriving. Talk a little bit about MCC and what that is. A lot of our audience is in LA or other places. They might not know how that theater has evolved, and the fact that you just moved into this extraordinary new building on the Upper West Side. I mean, we're the Midtown West Side.
Before
50s.
we just talk about that, but remember when like you would go to like Europe for the month? Like I remember when I started working with you, like 2 years in a row, you were like, I need to just go and travel. And didn't you like go to like Spain or somewhere? Like, but that we need
to Mallorca.
to do.
I don't do that anymore.
No, I know.
Remember when we went to? Remember when we went to that?
And to travel,
we went to that
that's
spot.
A good way to,
yeah, that's it. There, if you travel,
right.
Because you have to disconnect, except for
Then you
self-tapes
just,
being sent to you.
Can you? Can you?
Yes, I can. I feel like that's when I can, if I go somewhere.
Got it.
Not as much going to Long Island, because I still feel too close. But so I've been trying to get us to go overseas.
Far away.
Yeah.
If it feels far away. Although that's hard. I was in Italy a couple of years ago, and Steve was like, "Do not pick up the phone." Except we had to negotiate on this space, so we had to. But it was hard to separate.
Space.
No, thanks.
Thank you.
Space.
That means a lot coming from you. And every time
I was like, when I
and if
walked
you're in
it was
LA,
like
first of all, you should know.
colors
I know you've got your space where you have it, but you know that this is your home too. And if you want to decorate a little bit, we're open to having you come do that. Just send us your thoughts and your patterns and your swatches.
I love that stuff.
Yeah. Remember we went to Canyon Ranch?
Yes.
For 3 days? We thought that was a big escape.
That was a big escape on our way to LA.
Right. Yes, we were
To
working.
do work.
Yeah, but we still took those 3 days.
I remember that day, like tremendously.
Yeah. So MCC.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it stand for? How did that name happen? What is it?
The name was a mistake, but it was because when we were just getting out of NYU, we were class. I was the one who was like, okay, I'll open up the bank account, and like, so it was Class Company because we were a class.
I didn't know that.
And we were a club, and then like, we were a club for like 3 years, and now we're going to do something, and we can't be like Class Company because now that just sounds like so pretentious. So it just became Manhattan Class Company because we lived in Manhattan. And I mean, there was like, when you think of all these other titles, Naked Angel, Steppenwolf, blah, 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 we just never had. And then it was like, well, now everyone knows us. Everyone knows us. We're 2 years old. But like, we can never change our name.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we never changed our name. Then when, now we're 33 years old. But when we were moving into the Lortel, or slowly now moving into our new building, we just decided to stick with the MCC.
Yeah.
Because one, it was more unknown, and two, now we can't change it because we've been around.
Yeah.
But it's friggin' amazing. I mean, we have, we always were homeless as opposed to the Atlantic and the Vineyard.
That had theaters,
all had their own spaces.
Yeah.
We were happy to be on the Flower Mark, 99-seat shithole of a space on 28th Street. And then we moved into the Lortel, and the Lortel was great for 18 years.
You were there for that long? Wow.
15 years.
Yeah.
And, we always wanted our home, but we never had, that very, wealthy board member or donor to get us a building. And it's so ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
So we were happy being at the Lortel, and really, really happy. And we had a great situation there. And then during the Bloomberg administration, they were redeveloping the Upper Hell's Kitchen, which was really like from 49th to 59th on 10th Avenue and 11th Avenue. And there was this new condos that were going to be going up, and you could apply. And then it got down to like 7 finalists. And then, lo and behold, we got chosen to go into this space. And it, it was supposed to be ESTs.
I remember,
and then Kurt got all, scared.
And then he died.
Yeah. But he let it go before he died.
Let it, yeah.
And then they came and called us, and
Yeah.
then we thought, okay, it has 2 spaces, and it was just a shell. And unfortunately, the building was built before anybody was going to even move in there as a theater, so it wasn't ideal.
Right.
And to make a long story short, it took 12 years because it went from Bloomberg to de Blasio, and it's just endlessly slow working with the city. But at the same time, we were cool because it gave us more time to raise money, and we weren't homeless. We were at the Lortel, and we never believed it was real anyway.
Right.
Like, never. Even if we were still raising money, we never believed it was real. And the only reason we got to do it is because the city gave us, like 75% of the money between Bloomberg and de Blasio and Department of Cultural Affairs. And then we only had to raise like 25% of it, which was still a lot of money for us, but doable. And now we moved in this January, and it's amazing because for 30 years, we were all over the city. Our youth company and our after-school education programs were wherever we get free space. It was at the casting office. It was at Baruch College. It was everywhere. And the offices were on a little office space on 30th Street, which had nothing to do with art. And the rehearsal rooms were wherever we could rent rehearsal space.
And now
then
it's
we
all
were at the
together.
Lortel.
Oh, yeah.
And now everything is
Wow.
under one roof.
Yeah.
The 20 people staff are the same place where Josh Henry and Raul Esparza are rehearsing.
Yeah.
And the patrons now have a place to go after the show for a drink in our lobby, or our opening night parties are in the theater. It's amazing. And we've been there since January, and it feels like we've been there 5 years already. And
Wow.
it's so exciting having 2 shows and, having a box office, which we never could have at the Lortel.
Yeah.
And
But just to be clear,
artists-
the mission of the company is what?
is to develop and produce new work, to conversations you would never have otherwise had, is one of our sort of slogans.
Sure.
But it's really to develop new work. And whether it's through the education program or just through the artists doing the main stage plays. And we have 2 different theaters. One is a black box, which is about 110 seats that can be configured any which way. And then we have one that's more of a proscenium that's 250.
And you still get that same feeling, whether it's at MCC or whether it's an actor who walks in that you didn't know before and they move you on an emotional level. You still get that same feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like addictive, and now going to the theater, you just want to be there, whether it's watching the audience's members or having the talk back afterwards or hanging out in the green room. Now you can go in the green room and there's 2 monitors and you can watch both shows, or you can stand in the back of the house. It's thrilling,
Yeah, and coming back to that is the thing that just keeps you fortified.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the whole package.
Yeah.
And it allows you to then focus on the one task of casting in an oddly way.
Right.
If this is possible, well, then we could
That's amazing.
find who we need for that play.
So tell me this, though. What is the future of casting? If you see some young kids who are coming up through your system or not, the sensibility that they have by virtue of their generation and their relationship to technology, et cetera, can you instill in them this same love for the craft and for theater? Do they have it?
Yeah, I mean, the exciting part is now people want to go into casting. If I think about as much as you love it and I love it, we fell into it.
Right.
I feel like now, we're seeing interns who are coming to our office who are freshmen in college. They know they want to go into casting. And that's wonderful because that means the profession is meaningful to people out there and they're hearing about it and they now know what that means.
There might even be an award for it one day.
There might even be an award.
There are some.
There are some
there
already.
Emmys now.
There are some.
The award.
But yes, yeah. But so that's wonderful, and you love that. And there are people who are obviously learning a lot by being online because they're not even necessarily in the city or they're in school. So they have a lot more access earlier. So that's great. But it really is about teaching those millennials and those young people that it is still a people business.
Yeah.
It isn't a social media business. All of those kinds of things, because you still want them to not suffer a little bit, but struggle a little bit and really work in the theater, rather than just, getting out of school and now I want to go cast this TV show.
Is understanding
really
actors
mean?
and is understanding the craft and actors a prerequisite?
Yeah. And, and again, I think a lot of people in our generation, we were actors or we were directors, so we knew that because we only had that entry level into the arts. So the good and bad, the good is now they're starting off wanting to go casting. So that's the good, but then the bad is they have no idea.
They've never read a play.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what I've learned.
Yeah.
By meeting some young people. They've never read a play. Whereas all of the people in our generation, that's all they had.
Right, yeah.
Because they didn't have casting. So that's the sort of constant, Tiffany and I were just talking about that. Of, which again, for me in my own office, I'd rather find someone who knows nothing about casting, but knows all these plays.
Right.
Or was in the room.
Or has seen a film
cast.
before 1990.
Right.
7 or whatever that is, yeah.
So it's how do we train those younger people?
Yeah. But the fact is that you have a clear idea of what it should look like. And so if you can offer that kind of background and that kind of grounding, then, and that, I think that happens through your office, and you can breed the whole industry if you like.
No, I don't want to do that.
You're on the verge of that. So,
No.
What would you say to an actor out there listening? What can they let go of? What can they focus on? What should be really important to them when they're feeling this either outside or desperate or frustrated in their careers?
How can they fulfill themselves? Like, regardless of getting the job and wanting the job, and they have to do all of that.
Yeah.
How can they feel fulfilled as an artist? Whether that means in a class or whether that means get together with a bunch of actors every Monday night and read a play. It's like we did that when we were a club.
Yeah.
Find that internal or external way of feeling connected to being an artist. That's the thing that they gotta find and they gotta have so that it doesn't become just about the desperate, I need a job.
Yeah.
And that's hard, that separation.
But that's what you respond to. That's what we all respond to, are people who are, the Anna Lee Ashford is attractive because she's so in and of the work and she's always building parts of her life and her career so that she brings that in the room whole and wholeheartedly.
And I think for young actors too, it's say yes, get involved, do readings, be a reader, I know it's a little trickier in LA, possibly more than New York, but there are things happening all around, and get involved, and
even volunteer. Like I know Gracie, my daughter, is working at MCC now in the youth thing, and I didn't even know you had that. And she talks about it all the time, like what an important thing that is to be a part of that.
Yeah.
To be a part of something.
You.
Yeah, yeah.
And then she can still go write her screenplay or whatever her interest is.
Yeah.
But you need to, because it's such a delicate business, and you need to be involved in something. And I feel like I was lucky enough to have that with MCC.
But you created that with a bunch of... You made a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made a club. Yeah.
And from that club became an empire.
No.
I know you don't like that. I know it makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I really also want you to take ownership of this, what you have created, which is extraordinary.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you just need to,
That's a little bit your fault.
Oh, really?
You're a little bit of an inspiration. Come on.
Well, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope it makes you happy.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
Yeah. What matters to you about this?
Caring. Having an emotional connection, whether that be to a piece of material or to a person. That's what matters to me. Having a connection. And that can happen in an audition room. Well, that's what you wanted. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, whether it's with a board member or an artist at MCC or in an audition room, it's having that connection.
Being affected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Bernie Telsey.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my God, thank you.
We love sharing this content with our community. We offer it 100% free, and it's our privilege to do so. If you're loving this podcast and are interested in offering something in return, go ahead and subscribe to the Acting Podcast. Then find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to your podcast and leave us an honest rating and review. Your words will help us bring this work to even more actors and artists around the world.
Thank you so much for listening and for being here with us. We love how this community shows up for us and for each other, online and in the studio. And as a thank you to our incredible community, we want to give you an amazing free gift. It's called the Comprehensive Guide to the Perfect Self-Tape.
So all you have to do is screenshot your review, send it to theactingpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll send you an exclusive gift of the Perfect Self-Tape Guide to take your work to the next level.
And come visit us online at thebgbstudio.com. And if you're in LA, Atlanta, or New York, jump into a class with us. We're here to get you into the kind of shape necessary to be successful.